In the semester, by learning American poetry lesson, I read a lot of interesting poems by great poets. But still Iris poem was most interesting and special for me because when I read this poem I felt black people difficult life and how they were in difficulties, how they received much more discrimination. Still I Rise is poem by the American poet Maya Angelou. I really liked this poem. When I read it, I felt the historical events as if they were in my own life. This poem lies in differences, not in similarities. I remember by reading this poem Harry Tubman, John Chevy's life and James Meredith. Now I will analyze the poem by analyzing each stanza and express my own opinion. I will give my opinion first from the last stanza. In the last lines of the poem, we will be able to learn about injustice done in history. I am very sorry to think that is because of such kind of people we have achieved the democratic laws of today's democratic life. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. First stanza begins with these sentences. I think these words are the determination of woman who never gives up and never backs down. In the second stanza, she begins with question and directly expresses her dramatic action. I walk like oil and wells, meaning that I walk forward wherever I am everywhere, expresses her opinion. I really liked the third stanza because it clearly describes a bright future. We know that when the moon rises and even when the sun sets, we feel special new sensation. It is with the example of the water of the river, moon and the sun that she invited the people to go forward. In the fourth stanza, she gives questions by question. She shows her attitude towards herself. Every time she asks a question and she expresses how much she tries to lose discrimination. Stanza 5 and 6 are very interesting. In stanza 5, she acts like rich people, emphasizes how brave and strong woman with a gold mine. As the stanza goes on, she shows how much people hate black people. At the end of the stanza, she says that she will never gives up, never gives up. My conclusion: Americans of African people struggled for equality. From the slaveholder labels to democratic laws. I think that free black people were only technically free. By reading this poem, I know that black people level at the time and the blacks were discriminated against in such rights as voting, property ownership and freedom of movement. Even they hadn't free for education. Unfortunately, I learned two important rules for me by reading this poem. One of them is never say never. Because of this hero, I learned never say never. Second one is every success begins with hard work and difficulties. No one can achieve anything without action.